I love this berry icebox cake. It's very simple and refreshing. You get to use the best produce of the season and there's absolutely no baking required. You do have to plan a little bit in advance because I usually make it the night before a party. It has to sit for several hours at least before you can cut into it. But I think a little bit of patience is well worth the results. So no oven preheating required. Let's get started and talk about our first ingredient. You're going to need 16 ounces of cream cheese. This has been softened a bit. You don't want it to be super cold. You want it to be easy to stir. If it's too cold, you can end up with lumps, which are just not ideal. Now, before I add any of the other ingredients, I want to just beat the cream cheese until I can see that it's smooth and lump-free. It's going to make it easier to incorporate our next ingredients. You could absolutely use a stand mixer with a paddle attachment. I'm just going to be using my electric hand mixer today. All right, let's take a look. Scrape down the sides and bottom of the bowl with our spatula. It's just important to make sure that everything is nicely beaten and then there are no lumps remaining. See, if I take my spatula and just kind of smear it, that looks nice and smooth. So that's how I know I'm good to continue. Now, if I were using my stand mixer for this recipe, I would probably switch to the whisk attachment now, because now we're going to be adding our cream. You're going to need 3 cups of heavy cream for this recipe. I know it's a lot. And we are going to, I like to start with my mixer on low speed, and we're just going to gradually add the cream with our mixer on low or even medium low. My bowl doesn't want to sit still while I mix. This is going to help keep it still. Simple solutions. Here we go. All right, back to mixing. Silicone grips nicely so it won't slide around while I am mixing and pouring. Otherwise I'll just be chasing the bowl around the kitchen. Oh no, got a little on my mixer. All right, let's mix this in. And after adding about every cup of cream or so, it doesn't have to be exact, but I do want to pause, my goodness, and scrape the sides of the bowl again, which is just going to help keep us from getting any lumps and just ensure we have a nice smooth mixture. Adding the cream gradually is really going to help you out because if you add too much at once, it can make it hard for the cream cheese to incorporate that cream, and it just can also make lumps more likely. It's not rocket science. I don't want you to really stress out about it. I'm just explaining why you don't want to just dump all the cream in at once. You can add it faster the further you get through your cream. So it's all been added. We're going to do one more quick stir, or scrape, I should say. And you can see right now, it's pretty liquidy. So we're going to stir, gradually increase the speed to high, and we're going to stir this together until the mixture begins to thicken a bit. So what I'm looking for is the mixture to start leaving trails in the bowl. Okay, so here we're at about a minute of mixing on high speed. We're not at stiff peaks, nor do we want to be at this point. You can see there's some resistance to the mixture, so it's just thickening a little bit, and if I mix it, the trails that form, let me tilt it so you can see. See those trails? They're just kind of holding their shape a little bit. That's the point where I like to stop and add the sugar. We are going to add 2 cups of powdered sugar, all of it. And we're also going to add some vanilla for flavor. Now, if you have vanilla bean paste, it's a great time to use it. I like to add about a tablespoon of vanilla bean paste. However, vanilla bean paste is quite expensive, and my homemade vanilla at this point is free, so I am just using a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and that works really well too. I just like the little flecks of the vanilla bean paste. All right, let's go ahead and stir this in. And we're going to keep everything on low speed at first to get that sugar absorbed. That way we don't end up wearing it. All right, so once all that sugar is incorporated, we're going to turn our speed up to high, and we are going to beat until we've reached thick, fluffy, stiff peaks. I mean, we're almost there, but again, we don't want to skimp on the scraping part, just in case there are any lumps. This is pretty close. I'm just noticing a little bit of the mixture that's not well incorporated, so I'm going to give it another quick mix. Okay, we don't want to go too far. I don't want it too fluffy. I like it to have a little bit of silkiness to it. So okay, stiff peaks. If you've made my recipes, I've talked about this a lot. The peak that forms when you lift the batter or the spatula from it, they're pretty short now because they're kind of heavy peaks. They should hold their shape. I don't know if you can really see that, but this peak that formed is holding its shape. Try to put my hand behind it so you can see it. It's holding its shape. It's not folding over itself. Another thing you're looking for is just kind of like, see this thick texture? That would not have held before at this point. This is like the same texture you'd get from like, you know, that whipped topping you get in a blue and white container. Our assembly is pretty easy. We will need our graham crackers. This is 27. This is 27 graham crackers, which is pretty much exactly what you're going to have in a standard sized box of graham crackers. We're going to put a layer on the bottom. If you're using a glass casserole dish like I am, you won't need as many graham crackers on the bottom layer as you will in the next two layers, just because the bottom is curved up a little bit, which is actually great because you want to have an extra graham cracker left over for decorating the top with a couple of crumbs. So that works out perfectly. Now we are going to take about a third of this mixture and layer it over the graham crackers. I am going to just eyeball this. Hopefully it works out okay for me. And then the graham crackers are going to want to slide around a little bit, so if you need to use your fingers just to hold them in place, that's fine. It's easier with the next layer. Probably going to need to add a little bit more. Let's do another spoonful. We'll see at the end if I did a good job or not. Let's talk about berries. So I like to get together 3.5 cups of berries before I begin. I really like to use strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries. Also, how great would this be for a 4th of July party? I'm a little late for that this year, but red, white, and blue. The strawberries are going to be pretty large, so you're going to want to cut them into slices. That works out really nicely. 1.5 cups of berries are going to go in each layer, and I am kind of going to measure these a bit, give myself an idea, because I'm actually not great at eyeballing this. I'm not really great at eyeballing anything, to be honest. Even though sometimes the raspberries are a little bit large, they flatten really well between the layers, so I don't usually cut them or anything, but you could if you wanted to. Now what we're aiming for is some berry in each bite. Remember, we have another layer to do, plus the topping for those raspberries. I will kind of nestle them in. All right, next layer of graham crackers, we'll just go right on top, gently nestle them over the berries. That was wrong. Okay, this way is going to be your best bet. This will also help nestle your berries in. I'm gonna have to break some crackers to get a nice even layer here. Oh, why am I so bad at breaking them though? It's okay. Nobody will see if they're jagged when you cut into it. No one will have any idea, I promise. What am I doing here? All right, next, half of the remaining cream. If you want to be exact, you can just weigh it. But I think it's going to be fine, hopefully. Let's add some more berries. Now you don't need as many berries on top. I keep most of them inside the layers, so I only need about a 1/2 cup of blueberries left for topping off the cake, which are berries, not just blueberries, all berries. So this is looking pretty good. Again, remember we want to have a berry in each bite. I think we're in pretty good shape. Graham crackers this way. So the graham crackers are going to soften overnight while this sits. It's going to give you a really nice, like, cakey texture. That's pretty good. I want a little bit more here. All right, let's see how well I divided this as we put the last bit on top. I mean, it's a little thinner than would be ideal, but we're gonna get there. And we'll just arrange the last berries on top. And then for a final touch, we're going to take one of our graham crackers. I'm not sure why I have 2 left. But we're just going to take one and just kind of crumble it over top just for a nice touch. You could do this before you put the berries on. That probably would be smart, actually. That way you don't get graham cracker crumbs on your berries, but either way is going to work. This just adds a nice little touch. So if you did the opposite of what I did and accidentally ended up with no graham crackers, it's not gonna make or break things. I just think it adds like a nice sprinkle kind of feel to things. You know I like sprinkles. Look, I'm not even gonna use the whole thing. That's because I'm putting it on after the berries, not before, so I don't have as much space to fill. So I mentioned a little bit of patience is necessary for this. You want to chill this in the fridge for at least 6 hours. I will usually make it and serve it the next day. Covering it is ideal. It's going to help keep the texture nice. So let me cover it with some plastic wrap. What is this berry doing? He should go here. Gotta find just the right spot. There we go. So I'm going to pull out the one that I made last night, but I want to tell you something about icebox cake. It doesn't cut very nicely or neatly. It can be a little bit messy with your slices. Not really a big deal. I mean, this is a pretty informal dessert. It's great for like potluck, so there's nothing wrong with just taking a spoonful and dropping it in a cup or a bowl and eating it that way. But if you want the slices to be a little bit neater, pop the whole thing in the freezer for like 30 minutes before you cut into it, and it's just going to make your slices a lot neater. Yes, of course I did that. So you'll see mine after it's been sitting in the freezer for a little bit. All right, let's take a look. So this is optional, but one thing I like to do is add some extra fresh fruit just before serving the cake. It just makes the cake look prettier. All right, let's go in and cut a slice. Even though I froze this, the first slice is always going to be kind of messy, as it always is. I'm going to try to make this slice look nice for you. Don't hold your breath. Just something about a corner piece is always a little awkward. Oh, how are we looking? Not too bad, I think. Slide it off. Doesn't want to leave the spatula. I wasn't expecting perfection, but that actually sliced okay. It would be a lot messier if I hadn't chilled it, but it would still be delicious. And don't chill it too long, otherwise it can get too difficult to cut and kind of awkward to eat, unless you like that sort of thing. This is what I will be taking to the potlucks and picnics and cookouts all summer long. Thank you so much for watching. If you try this one, leave me a comment. I really do love hearing what you think, and I will see you next time. This is lovely, and it's so easy. Oops. 1.5 layers of berries are going to go in each layer. Evidently that's just not to be. It's already not feeling like enough. Oh, graham crackers. Where's my brain? The pan might have got a little bit of whipped cream in it while I was mixing. It's fine.